Good afternoon. In this video I want to point out quickly that the gap is a fact. And the idea that there's that this is a theory or debatable is incorrect. Now the problem has been people have defended the gap for wrong reasons. You have the Schofield note defending the gap because people are concerned about thinking the Earth, the science is proving the Earth old, and therefore they had to defend somehow the age of the Earth. And they said, well, this will defend that because there was a gap in the reconstruction. So Earth originally was created old, and then you have a fall of Satan in the Earth, recreation of the Earth. That's not relevant to the real issue. Likewise, people would say that death entered in before Adam. We talk about death entering into mankind. In that issue, that's the important point there. The reality is that there is a parenthesis somewhere between Genesis 1:1 and chapter 1:1, or between Genesis 2, chapters 2 and 3. You have to explain the nature of evil coming into the universe before the fall of man. Sin always has catastrophic results. In the case of Adam, gets him thrown out of the garden. Years later, the world ends up being destroyed by a flood. So sin could have, the reality of a catastrophic event happening. Genesis 1:1, is very, very possible. But the point is that the term has now it's like almost a loaded term now. But there's a parenthesis, quite clearly. You look in the Genesis record of Morris, while he rejects the gap, and he gets to Genesis 3, he has to put in the history of Satan. He explains Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28, and he explains that. He says this is how this showed up in order to tempt man. So he's putting in a parenthesis, if you want to use that word instead of gap, between chapters 2 and 3. So that's the essential issue of the point of the gap view. That there has to be an explanation of evil coming into the universe. You can't just read it straight through Genesis without bringing back in the history of Satan and bring him back in there and say, where did the serpent show up? That's the essential point. The other issues are peripheral, and you could argue about where it begins 1:1, 1:2, and the effects of sin. And if Satan fell, there would be a catastrophic event in the universe, and then there's a recreation of the earth, or he fell between Genesis 2 and 3. But the point is that this is not an issue of the argument. You might argue about details. Particular gap guys argue about with death, and they hypothesize and speculate about that. Now we know death came through mankind, through Adam. That's not even debatable. But the point is that there is a gap. You could use the word parenthesis in the Genesis account that we're not told about. It's not a straight narrative. As I said, Morris has to bring in the history of Satan when he gets to chapter 3 and explain where evil shows up. And he has to explain the fall. So sin entered the universe before man's fall. That's the reality of it. There's a rebellion before man. And you have to explain that. That means in the historical narrative, you have to break. You have to stop and break and explain and bring in other verses to explain that narrative of where the serpent came from, who he was representing, who he was indwelt by, etc. And then going to explain another individual, Satan, who hadn't shown up before. You're now explaining how he got in that situation and what he's trying to do. So again, the gap is not a theory. The gap as an historical narrative, there being a break in the historical narrative and the historical event having to be put in that area, that parenthesis, if you like, is a fact. And that's the real issue, dealing with the issue of whether there's a gap in the Genesis account between chapters 1 and 3. Amen. Thank you.